Good evening and welcome to Greatest Somerville for February 7th, 2012. I'm Joe Lynch.
I'm KyAnn Anderson.
And I'm CTodd Lombardo.
Tonight's topic, Ideas Worth Spreading, a concept derived from TED, a nonprofit organization devoted to the sharing of interesting ideas with the population at large. This phenomenon started in 1984 as a conference bringing people together from three simple words: technology, entertainment, and design. Since then, its scope has become even broader. Along with 2 annual conferences and a host of other events, the TED organization allows for communities to host independently organized events the world over, all sharing this one common theme: ideas worth spreading. As TEDx Boston and TEDx Cambridge have successfully hosted their events beginning in 2009, we here in Somerville thought it was time for us to experience this amazing experience as well. I am pleased to announce that the inaugural TEDx Somerville event will be held March 4th, 2012 at the Arts at the Armory on Highland Avenue, with this year's theme, Creative Economy and Sustainable Community. We'll be catering ideas of preserving the past, embracing our present, and envisioning the future. Our guest tonight is CTodd Lombardo, the Executive Director of TEDx Somerville, who is here to shed a little light on the TEDx phenomenon and what it takes to make this event happen. Outside of TEDx, he's an avid bicyclist, a visual thinking consultant, a property owner at Brick Bottom, and more importantly, he's my good friend. Please join us in welcoming CTodd Lombardo for his debut appearance here at Greater Somerville. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now you know what it takes to put on a TV show.
I do, yes.
A host-operated set, by the way.
Host-operated set. We had a little technical difficulty coming onto the show, so I apologize for that, but we still made it. Everybody looks great.
Everybody's fine. Everybody's fine.
Yes. Well, we were going to show a video, but unfortunately that won't be happening because we have a little technical snafu.
That's okay. I think we can point people to it later.
But these things happen.
Yeah.
But a lot of our viewers do go back and watch the past episodes.
This is true.
We're going to be pointing you directly over to the TEDx site so you can watch the video after tonight.
Bit more.
Great.
And just right up front here, I need to, this is really interesting. This is usually Joe's chair, and I'm usually over here, and I just feel like this is more active.
And tonight you are the rose between 2 thorns.
This is true. This is true.
How does that feel?
You know, we haven't seen each other in a while. Joe's being really nice to me. I don't know what's going on. Okay. I need to be totally upfront here. KyAnn disclosure is, I feel I need to be upfront because obviously we're talking about TEDx Somerville, which I think is a wonderful idea. Full disclosure, I am actually involved with the TEDx Somerville team. I am the program director, and I do think that this is a wonderful opportunity for Somerville to shine and display a lot of its hidden talents, and that's one of the reasons why I brought CTodd on the show. And I just want to let that be known out there because, you know, obviously my opinions, I'm going to be as unbiased as I can, but
No, you're not.
No, you're going to be biased. That's okay.
You are part of this television show. You are going to pump the hell out of TEDx Somerville. And that's exactly why we asked CTodd to come in tonight.
This is true. Okay, so now that I've aired my
She tried to do that with such a straight face.
She did.
Well, I did, but I just appreciate people being honest.
And
I
we
just
do.
think
And we
that,
do, and I think that's good.
Okay.
We do. And you know, CTodd, this is your show to talk about TEDx, but KyAnn and I have this thing about anytime we are involved in something in the city of Somerville, if we have a guest that even remotely is associated with us, we do the disclaimer right up front.
And I think that's a good policy to have.
It is a good policy.
Because we want
TEDx.
Yeah.
I almost called him TODx when he came.
I know. It just rolls. Viewers at home, we want to remind you.
Switch a letter.
Give us a couple minutes. We're just going to chitty-chat a little bit, but you can call us 617-628-9876. We'll pick up the phone in a couple of minutes if you have any questions for CTodd, Joe, or myself.
Yep.
So let's just find out a little bit about you, and then we'll get into the old, TEDx phenomenon. But tell me your background. Where did you come from? You're from the area.
My background, yeah. So I grew up in Lowell many years ago. Lived around New England for a lot of different places, a few different states. And then ended up buying a property in Somerville in 2004. Bought that Brick Bottom loft, just right down the street. Sort of fell in love with Brick Bottom. I think in about 2000, a friend of mine took me to the open studios there.
Yeah, wonderful
Just
community.
fell in love with it. And I was like, I want to live here. How do I live here?
Yeah.
that, it was 4 years later I finally actually got to buy a place, but
And tear it apart.
and
which
ripped
is
it
a whole
apart
other thing
completely.
that I was involved with. But
Which I am forever in debt to KyAnn for her architectural ninja skills.
There's
in
another
helping-
disclosure.
no.
Full
I didn't
disclosure.
pay him to say that. That was absolutely unsolicited. But I'll take that. I'll take that very much.
No, I was. I mean, obviously, you
I gotta
saw.
put that
You
point
see how
in
that
there.
came out. It
Yeah.
came out
It's
fantastic.
fabulous, fabulous.
So, yeah.
And so, how did you get involved with TED? Like, where did that come from? Because
Sure.
your background isn't. Well, you went to Madrid and got your business degree.
So I'll sort of before I even left Somerville and moved to Madrid, my first experience with TED, and a lot of people ask this. So, what's your first experience with TED? Not just their TEDx, but just about TED. So my first experience with TED was in 2004 when somebody had, and so they have, as you mentioned earlier, that started in 1984, and they've been videotaping all the talks the whole time. And they produced DVDs. They stopped producing them recently because all the talks end up going up online. There's no point to have DVDs. But they used to submit DVDs to all the attendees. And so a friend of a friend went and loaned him the DVDs. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you got to see this one from this guy named Zayfrank. Now, I'd heard about Zayfrank from some of his websites, and some of the folks here may have heard of him as well. Pretty funny, sharp guy, lives in New York City, has some funny videos on the web. But they had him do a talk. It was just brilliantly hilarious. So I watched this for like 18, and I'm just dying laughing, thinking this is hilariously awesome. Tell me more about this whole conference. And so they told me a little bit about it. I was like, wow, what a really cool thing. Didn't really pay too much attention to it until 2006 when all of us they got a huge grant from a company organization, I think, to put all the talks online. So they just started putting everything up online and making it accessible for everybody to watch.
And now, sorry to interrupt you, but for those of you at home, those are the ones that everybody's raving about, the TED Talks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, those are the ones that are on the YouTube channel. You can find them, just Google TED.
TED.com.
And it's, all these really inspiring
Very, yeah.
speakers talking about various ideas worth spreading.
Yeah, and that was, I think, Richard Saul Warman's original idea was, let's get some really interesting people in the room as well as on stage and have them talk about just what's, the state of the world, state of technology, entertainment, and design, and what happens. Let's see what happens. And really that exchange of ideas became this really powerful force.
Because then those people can take what's
Exactly.
presented at the conference and take it elsewhere. And
Right.
they just
And
kind of
then
swell.
when it sort of democratized a bit more in that now it was suddenly accessible to everybody online,
Yep.
that just made it, wow, so anyone with a web connection could have access to this information and these talks.
So you have, now explain the difference between the TED. So there's TED. I'm just, I don't know,
Yes.
you're just nodding over here. You're not saying anything, which is so atypical.
Ted Kennedy.
No.
Ted
But you
Tobin.
and you should.
Right.
You're more nice.
Thank you.
Good throw out there.
I like
So TED, and then there's TEDx. Now
Right.
let's talk about the differentiation
Sure.
between
So in
those.
2009, what the folks at TED did said, wow,
Nonprofit.
they're a nonprofit. They're owned by the Southling Foundation,
Okay.
Which is a nonprofit. And in 2009, they said, well, where do we go from here? In 2006, they put all the videos online, and then they just sort of exploded in terms of popularity. And I said, where do we go from here? What do we do? What's next? And so they thought, well, what if we enabled locally driven versions of the TED conference? Now, there's 2 every year. There's one in California and one in now Edinburgh.
2 TED conferences.
2, yeah. TED Global in Edinburgh and the actual TED conference in Long Beach, California. And they said, well, what if we let communities run their own? They take the same format we had. We'll loan them our name. We'll give them
For marketing purposes.
for videos, and they can then show these videos, talk about them, and even have some of their own local speakers. What they didn't realize was that there was a whole groundswell happening, and people took this and just built on it. I remember actually talking to Chris Anderson about this, and he's like, we thought it was going to be a handful of people sitting around in some small theaters and living rooms, watching talks, talking about them, and that's really about it. Well, at the end of 2009, so they started this program, and they announced it at TED in 2009. By the end of 2009, they had something like over 150 different TEDx events around the globe. And they were blown away.
And so it's important to note, though, that they can take these videos from these TEDx versions.
Yes.
The TED people can select which ones they want
So
at the
they're
end of the show.
auditioning.
Well,
In some
potentially,
sense,
yeah,
kind of
right.
a sense, it's an interesting.
These are hyper-local TED versions, and they're auditioning for the national
But the
stage.
fact-
Yes and no, because what it isn't necessarily that they're auditioning the speaker. What they're doing is they're saying, hey, here because TED has become a content curator,
Right, right.
and it's just they've just expanded the net of where they can select content from. So a lot of the TED Talks that you see on TED.com have now been selected from TEDx events.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just important, sorry to interrupt you, it's
Yeah.
just important that people know that this is an event that is local. However, its ramifications can be much greater
And
than
the
because
reach
it will
is
reach
amazing.
Yeah.
And
So when I give my 15-minute talk, I could be chosen for the national spotlight.
you could be.
You could be, depends on how your hair looks though.
Yeah.
I could just shave it off like I did once.
That's true, the summer's coming. That's what shows hair, summer haircut's coming. Okay,
Yeah,
so
absolutely. So some of those, so they get, and the TEDx has its own YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And that's separate from TED.com. But even the TEDx YouTube channel is getting a similar type of
volume.
reach.
Wow.
Not quite the same volume of TED.com, but it's still pretty amazing. I think you've sent the numbers. We sent the numbers around to the team, and it's impressive. Just in January alone, there were 77 different TEDx events around the world, and something like 4.6 million views of those talks.
Yeah.
Todd, we have some older viewers. Why don't we get into a little bit about the content of what the speakers speak about? Because I think some folks at home may be thinking, well, maybe it's
What
an
is this?
inspirational program, maybe it's a political program.
Yeah, sure.
Highlight
Well-
some of the
Yeah,
speakers
absolutely.
that you've
Well,
had.
can I interject for one quick second?
No.
Well, here's the thing. I just wanted it to be known only because this is a pretty complicated event. There's a lot to it, and I
moving
just want
parts.
know that you've done a couple before.
Yes.
And then we
Yep.
can get into that. But it's
Yeah.
really important because TEDx Madrid was very successful, and now it's been 3 years running.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
started that in
I
Spain.
started. So I was leaving Somerville in the early 2009. I heard about the program because obviously to follow TED, and heard about the program. I said, I'm moving to Madrid. I want to do this in Madrid. So I applied. You had to go through an application process, an interview with them. And I said, here's my experience, here's my event experience that I've done in the past. I've done some of these conferences for like Product Camp Boston with Sasha. I've done some bike races, so I had some event planning experiences. I said, here's what I want to do. I'm going to this school. Here's the facilities I'll have available to me.
And you created the event.
And they said, okay, great. And it was the first one in Spain to apply for a license, first one to actually have a license in Spain. So it was the first TEDx in all of Spain. And the first event we had about 99 people show up. And then a year later we had another one. And the first one was okay, but the second one we learned a lot. Did it again, and it just exploded in terms of the amount of people who were like, wow, this is really cool, this is amazing for the community. And the third one, I sort of handed it off to a colleague of mine, and she was telling me that they had 800 people asking for only 300 seats.
That's
Just
fantastic.
an amazing demand for the
So,
event.
getting back to Joe's question,
What do they talk about?
Yeah, they talk about again the ideas we're spreading. So a lot of these videos are available online, so you can look but Al Gore has talked about things. Malcolm Gladwell has talked about choice in spaghetti sauce. You know, you look at the democratization of spaghetti. You can go look at Malcolm Gladwell's talk. He talks about why are there so many different varieties of spaghetti sauce.
interesting.
Yeah, Fiorenzo,
I don't know
a professor.
if I would.
Right.
Okay,
This
Al
past,
Gore.
This past year, Al Gore did a great talk.
Yeah, he's not coming to Somerville.
Yeah, he's
I'd
not.
hope he was coming. but-
Fiorenzo
Al.
Omenetto, professor over at Tufts, spoke last year at TED in Long Beach, and he talked about the future of biomaterials. And he actually, what was really cool is he had a picture of a Charlie card that was actually made out of this particular silk material that he uses. And he showed it as an example, but it's a way that they can use this to break down at certain periods of time for drug delivery. They're just really amazing stuff.
But what I'm thinking too is important to note is that you had made mention, because you're Mr. Political. There are strict rules, right?
Yes.
With the guidelines with
Yes.
TED that we are not able to
Right, so
step over the line.
political free, religion free, and sort of corporate plug free program.
Gotcha.
So it's supposed to be not supposed to be biased by any of those. Now some of the talks do skirt the lines in terms of politics or religion or
Well,
even
it's kind of
corporations.
difficult not to bring in political ramifications into some of these
Of course.
talks.
Yeah, absolutely.
But-
and even just corporate clubs. For example, last year, the CEO of Pepsi got on stage, as well as Bill Ford. You know, and obviously they're talking about some of the things that happen in their business.
Right.
So it's obviously there's, you know, okay, there's how do you avoid the bias in that regard?
But you're not going to be walking up there with a, you know,
You're not going to
T-shirt.
be pitching something.
No, but
The
these are inspirational thinkers
Yes.
and speakers.
Yes.
And then, so from the national level, you talked a little bit about your Madrid experience, and now, you know, the U.S. with its 2 major conferences. Now we're into the hyper-local stuff.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the Somerville aspect
like why
of it.
Somerville?
Why Somerville? Well, obviously I've got a connection here, owning property here, and Somerville is the first place that I've lived that really feels like home. So I really love this city, and I think it's just a great place to live. So for me, when I came back here, and I had met the folks from TEDx Boston, I had met the folks from TEDx Cambridge, and I was like, well, why not a TEDx Somerville? I mean, there's so many amazing things going on here in this city. This platform is a fantastic vehicle to share those stories, not only with the community itself, so that people can understand what else is going on here, but also to share the rest of the world, because the audience, even though the event is March 4th at the Armory, and we're going to have people there, the audience is global.
Sure.
The reach is global.
Sure.
Especially given
Just
the
like this
popularity.
television show.
Absolutely.
Yes, Joe.
We are a global
We
television
are a
show.
show. Thank you.
Yeah.
It all comes
So
back to something.
in that, you know, I mean, the statistic of Somerville having the most artists per capita outside of New York City in the United States, like that type of thing, those type of.
Has that been verified, by the way?
You know, I'm not sure, but it is on the Somerville.
I think-
It's on the
I think-
Somerville
I
Mass
think
Joe's
website.
doing a fact
I
check.
think you guys need to verify it, because the mayor and I have discussed it before,
Yeah.
and I said, you know, Joe, you've been hyping the hell out of that thing, that Somerville has more artists per capita than any.
We're
I
gonna
want to
put
see
Kim
the
Blodgett
data.
on it. We're
It's
going to
a-
put
it's a-
Kim on it. We'll be like,
Yeah.
I want to see the data. Don't take anything off the City of Somerville's website.
Joe doesn't trust anybody. That's just his way.
Trust, but
But
verify.
Okay, fair enough. Here's a question, though.
Yes.
This expands it because you touched on the art. So there will be speakers. We're going to have a number of
Yeah.
speakers. You know the final numbers there.
Yeah, I think final number is going to be close to 21. We actually don't have them all up on our website yet.
Yeah,
There's
we're
a
still
few
we're
to
still
announce.
working on some stragglers there.
Tweaking the final. It's a little bit of a
Last
juggling
minute
act.
Lucy's.
Making sure
Where do
we
they
put
come
everything-
from? I looked at the partial list. Where did some of these speakers come from?
A lot of them have connections here, and
Yeah.
our goal is to have about 2/3 have some direct connection to somewhere, whether they live here, whether they work here. There's some
Businesses
direct,
here.
yeah,
Own
their businesses
property,
here, they
own
own
a
property here.
business, yep.
There's some direct connection here. Maybe they live here, but they work somewhere else. For example, Ruth Allen, who's not on the website, but she does a lot of work in Africa, but she lives in Somerville with her husband. So that's one example. Liz Party, who used to live here, librarian. She used to live in Somerville. Now she lives just across the line in Arlington, but obviously visits all the time. Really entertaining speaker. Talks about the future of librarians, and I think she's going to be a lot of fun. Skylar Town, who works over at Sprout. Yeah, lockpicker, professional lockpicker.
Yeah, no, I heard about him.
Yeah.
So, but it's important to note also that we have decided it is an event for speakers, as well as there is an art curator.
Yes.
So we have artists from all over Somerville that will be
Yes.
displaying various types of art. That's a very exciting component
we have
to the event.
Yeah, one of our team members, Kim Blodgett, she's a MFA out of RISD, really excellent eye for curation of art. And so she's a good friend of ours, but she's really on her game when it comes to curating art. And so she's going out and talking to lots of artists and trying to pull out Somerville's best and display it.
In various parts.
Here's a question
Okay.
for the two gurus for TEDx. What is Somerville's greatest claim to fame when it comes to art? The masters, world famous art. What is Somerville's
I don't know if
claim
you're
to
asking the
fame?
right
It's
person
kind of a
here.
it's kind of a strange question, but do you know? Especially
actually-
where you live.
Oh, put the pressure on.
Who's your neighbor?
Who's my
There's a building that's
neighbor?
one
you
of
have a
your
crazy guy?
neighbors,
I have
right?
two
Next
neighbors.
to
I have
Brick Bottom.
two neighbors.
No, not within your building. A building close to you.
Joy Street?
No,
No.
no. The archives for the Museum of Fine Arts.
Really? They're right
They're
in Brick
right
Bottom
next
District?
door to you
I
in
had
Brick
no
Bottom.
idea.
That building with no windows and the security guards.
No kidding. I had no
Interesting.
idea.
TEDx.
Joe is a
See?
Cool.
little sponge. Little sponge.
Yeah, little sponge.
No, I appreciate that. That's a really interesting
There
thing.
you go.
So we're doing artists. We're also doing. We have a music curator.
Yep.
We have all local musicians throughout the day. We'll be doing really unique and new
the
things
one that
out
John just curated. So John Bernard is actually in the Somerville Arts Council's curate our music, and he's doing a great job. And we've got the Michael J. Epstein Memorial Library as our house band.
Very excited about
Really
that.
creative group. I just very entertaining. It's the only all-female male-fronted band in Somerville or something.
Nice.
They have an interesting,
I like it. I like it already.
claim, but yeah. Michael is interesting. They're sort of all-female, but he's the one who apparently has the name. And Jenny Lee, the latest one from John. Oh God, I love her voice. What
Okay.
an amazing singer-songwriter.
There's some
Lives
really
in
exciting
Somerville.
music that's going to be there, as well as local cuisines.
Local food.
Restaurants,
Restaurants.
Yes.
caterers.
We're
How long is the event going to last?
So it's going to be a day long. So and just to put it in context, the typical TED conference lasts about 5 days, and it's sort of like it's like a morning, noon, night type of
Right.
thing. And it's like you sort of eat, drink, and sleep, and it's a full experience. And so part of it is we want to give the Somerville community a taste of that experience as well. So it's a long event. It's going to be from 10 o'clock in the morning till about 6:30 at night. And then
Do
we even
folks have to
after-party.
arrive right at 10, or can they come in for
yeah.
specific
They
speakers?
could come in at within the session. So
Let's
so
talk
there's going
about
to
the
be
day.
4 sessions.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And there'll be an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes each, roughly. And the whole idea is it's not just about the speakers on the stage. It's also the conversations that you have in the breaks afterwards. So it's about you listen to something, you experience something, and then you go have a conversation with the person next to you or somebody while you're having a coffee.
So any of us who have done focus groups, these are called breakout sessions.
It's a breakout session. No, but it's important to know. It's important to know. We've got about 5-10 minutes here left, so I just want to make sure we get everything in.
Sure.
But it's important to know that we have the breakout sessions will be also inclusive of there are going to be 5 to 7 tables in the cafe
Yes.
area of the Armory. That's going to be inclusive of
Okay.
various community groups. We're in the
Yep.
process of kind of curating that as well. The mayor's going to stop by in the morning.
Yeah, he's going to say hello.
We're going to have some
Welcome,
coffee
everybody.
with Curtatone early in
Yeah.
the morning. So come on in and talk to him and talk to.
Sorry, I've had coffee with Joe many times.
Oh my gosh.
Well, this will be for the other
Joe is
200 or 300
And
people.
somehow I always wind up buying. So.
Either Joe, you can come in. But
There you
anyway,
go.
so I mean, it is really going to be an opportunity to talk with a lot of local people and
Yeah.
find out what's going on in our city and the exciting things. How do you get involved?
10 o'clock in the morning.
Sorry, we're just all
So
over it.
doors open at 9. First session starts at 10.
Gotcha.
And then we'll do about an hour and a half sessions. And so if somebody wants to come in, they won't be able to come in the middle of a session.
Right,
They'll
okay.
have to wait until the breaks.
But in the cafe, there'll be a
Okay.
streamed live, so you'll be
There'll
able
be
to
other
catch.
things for
Right,
people
so, yeah.
to
Well, there's a
their
projection
attention.
screen that will
Yeah, so
have
we're
the
gonna have
event.
And
You can
how
watch.
much, the all-important question is,
Yeah.
how much are those tickets?
That's a great question. So we have spent a lot of time talking about this, and we know that the Somerville area is not the most economically strong of the area. So we said, well, let's make sure it's accessible, but we also need to pay for the production of the event.
But it's important to note we do not profit from this event
Yes,
in any way,
at
shape, or
all.
form.
This is
absolutely all
Yeah,
donations, all funding has
yeah.
to be kept in the TEDx Somerville account.
We don't
and
get to
it's
make a
not-
dime. We do
yeah.
this because we love it, because we're passionate people who believe in the power of ideas we're spreading. So $40 general admission, but we also have a scholarship program that we're going to have about 10 to 15% of the tickets set aside for people, either a half price ticket or a no price ticket. And so we've got a setup on the website for that, so people can say, okay, yeah, you know what, I'm having trouble right now, and I'm a student, I'm unemployed, I'm running a startup, etc. Because we don't want to exclude people just based on the ticket price.
So any of those folks who qualify for that, you're going to notify them before the event?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We won't be able to notify them till later on in the process because we're still working
So
on
once
it.
again, Todd, the website address.
TEDxSomerville.org.
Okay. We're going to say it a couple more times.
Yeah, no, we are. You're right. I wanted to definitely throw
KyAnn's
that
going
in
to put
there.
it on the Greatest Somerville blog
Yeah.
as
I
well.
will.
So.
One quick question I do want to touch on, because I think this is something that we just want to put out there. There is an application process in order to get into the event, and it's been talked about online, and I think we just need to at least wonder,
I think
find out about why that is.
Sure,
What is that?
that's a great question, and I'm glad that there's been some energy around it. I think there is an application process, and this is very much a TED and TEDx thing.
And that's required by the TED
so
organization.
it's following all the guidelines and principles. When you get the license from TED, you are required to follow a handful of guidelines and principles. One of the things is you don't just curate your speakers and your performers and your artists, but you also curate the audience. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is you want to make sure you have a diverse set of people who can actually care about the ideas that are there and are going to take action and do something about it. So that's just kind of the guiding principle behind it. And then some people will say, well, we want more transparency, and it's hard. We're not going to say, like, well, we don't want this person or that person or this person. And one of the things I think for us, it's with TEDx Somerville, is we want this to be TEDx Somerville. We don't want this to be TEDx Boston or TEDx Cambridge or just another version in a different location.
So what does the application ask? I mean, what's the
two big
application?
questions are, what are the top 3 challenges what do you think the top 3 challenges that Somerville has as a city? And then what is it that you could do to maybe try to solve them?
And then when you use the word curate, that's that gives you kind of a shape of this person.
Yeah, it's like who's really interested.
And future events, you could kind of match up people and say, here's something.
And let me give you an example of what happened with TEDx New England. Is that there was 2 kids from MIT who presented a nuclear reactor or something about a nuclear reactor. In the audience was a guy from the NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Mm-hmm. And without audience curation, that guy may not have been there. In fact, it's really unlikely he would have been there. And so, because this guy actually was able to go talk to those kids and say, hey, let's do something.
But let's just be honest, though. I mean, just to make, because we've got a couple minutes left, so we're going to have to wrap it up. But I don't think we're not dissecting. Let's just like it's a way to curate, but at the same time, we're including all. I mean,
it's more for that. Not, we don't want, because there's a lot of TED fans out there.
Yeah.
And let's say there's a guy, there's a bunch of people from Boston who live in the Back Bay, love TED, love TEDx, love all this stuff. They've been to TEDx Boston, they've been to TEDx Cambridge, they just love this stuff, but they never spend time in Somerville.
And we want to make
one
sure
or two of them
spend time.
That's if 1 or 2 of them come to the event and apply, that's great. But I don't want the entire room full of that, right? Mm-hmm. We want to make sure that we've got.
To be represented.
We want it to make sure that it's TEDx Somerville, not TEDx Boston Light or TEDx Cambridge Light, that kind of thing. So that's probably the reason why.
I don't want to eat into. KyAnn's going to kill me for asking this question.
No.
I've asked this question of congressmen, of educators, of politicians, of business people,
and now I get the same question.
CTodd Lombardo is going to get this question.
Sure,
and if you ever have a speaker at a TED or a TEDx event who can answer this, all hail. Where do baby pigeons go?
Oh my God.
Have you ever seen a baby pigeon?
I'm trying to think if I have.
Good night, folks. Thanks for watching.
All right, I'd like to
thank you. Thank you all very much for having me. I appreciate it.
I'd like to thank our guest, CTodd Lombardo, for stopping by Greater Somerville tonight and letting us know about the TEDx Somerville Creative Economy Sustainable Community event being held at the Armory on Sunday, March 4th. 10 to 6:30. It's definitely an event you don't want to miss, and one that I'm very proud to be involved with. Please check out our website for more information on tonight's episode and related links, as well as all of our Greater Somerville episodes. That does it for us tonight. Thank you, viewers at home, for watching. As always, stay safe and stay informed.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.